of the strengths of Workday Adaptive Planning is not just having the dashboard at our fingertips, not just being able to have the planning model at our fingertips, but being able to model what if scenarios as well. So in this example, I'm going to go from retail planning on the top right hand corner where I open up my versions. I'm going to select a new scenario, and this is going to be titled here for us webinar. And I'm going to create this scenario. Now, inside of Workday Adaptive Planning, what I'm doing is I'm spinning up an ad hoc or a what if scenario that is actually a direct child of the underlying planning version that we've got. That lets me know that I'm still starting out with the baseline of what my plan was. So think of annual operating plan or monthly or quarterly reforecast that we have. But this what if scenario allows us to make tweaks or changes without impacting what that baseline version is. So as an example, maybe I'm coming in and looking at my sales or looking at, in this case, I can see that I've got some sales assumptions. So let's open some of these up and take a look at some of the data that we're seeing. So inside of this model, I'm looking at different service lines that we have. In this case, I'm going to say, here's service line, and I'm going to just drag that onto a store for us. So store 1001. Now I've got all of these different service lines or average sales per customer, all of these different sort of facts about this particular store. But on the top of my dashboard, I'm actually able to click in and drill in and get more information or more detail here. And you can see that I can continue clicking or filtering or going down into more and more detail so that I could actually start to make some changes or tweaks inside of this webinar version. So if we're going to say that our average sales per customer Monday through Thursday is $15 in the clothing department or women's clothing department, maybe we want to make some change to what that number is. Maybe we say it's $18. Now we can set it in adaptive where we can make a change and it's going to automatically impact all of our forward facing numbers as well. Or we can just go in and make a change to a single value. In this case, the first week of the month, we're just going to make a quick change. And as an example, saving this change, you can see that I've made a tweak or made a change inside of my what if scenario. It's highlighted, letting me know that we've got a deviation from our underlying or original plan. And I want to keep that, sort of the change that we put in there. But you can see that as I'm going through the plan, or as I'm going through all of the changes or all of the tweaks that we're making, it's tracking all of those changes and all of those differences. So as an example, we just made a change to some of those sales assumptions. What if we have some changes that maybe go beyond just looking at what we're forecasting our expected sales are going to be for our Monday through Thursday customers? Now, some of those changes that we may want to look at are things that would impact maybe variable staffing as an example. So in this case, I'm looking at a role of specialists, maybe somebody who works in a clearance department. Again, I'm just going to open this up really quickly for us to be able to drill into some underlying or overall assumptions that we've got. But in this case, again, looking at particular stores and looking at maybe store 1001 again, we want to say that we're going to be making a tweak or making a change to what our variable forecasting needs are going to be. Well, a lot of you who are listening today, maybe base your variable staffing or variable forecasted staffing needs based off of something like foot traffic. Foot traffic for us inside of Workday Adaptive Planning, we can actually leverage a few different things for that. First, what we like to do is we actually will start by generating a machine learning forecast inside of the tool. Now, this is native, readily available technology inside of Workday Adaptive Planning. But as you can see, I've spun up just a new forecast here for us, or a new machine learning forecast, to be able to generate the predicted machine learning forecast or predicted foot traffic based off of the machine learning forecast. So in this webinar example, I'm going into my demand generation, submitting a retail planning version for maybe expected foot traffic changes over the next 6 months. Now, inside of Adaptive, I can't, or I don't only have to look at historic information, be able to predict a future forecast, but I can also look at pulling in outside levers as well. So we can use algorithms or tools inside of Adaptive, such as Profit or some of our auto fits, but to be able to leverage in something like daily weather. So in the store planning space, specifically for retail, we know that sales are impacted based off of weather, whether that's positive or negative, right? If we think that people are going to be less likely to shop our store based off of if it's a rainy day, we can actually have that impact what our foot traffic expectations are going to be based off of weather forecasts. What this could look like for us in practice is inside of my actual demand staffing dashboard here. You can see I've got foot traffic here brought in, or daily foot traffic for the next few months, and it's actually being generated based off of events such as our weather event here as well. So looking at if we've got favorable weather days, maybe 6 per month or 7 per month or 8 per month, we can use that as a lever inside of our forecast to predict what our forward-looking foot traffic is going to be for a particular store or region based off of weather. Now, a lot of folks that we talk to inside of finance, they always say, I always want to have my hand on the steering wheel when it comes to expected foot traffic here. So what we may do is come in and say, okay, here's what our expected foot traffic is. 3,474 people are expected to come in the first week of the month in January. Maybe we go in and say there's going to be a 10% deviation to what we would expect. That's one way that we could go in and we could have an override or keep our hand on the steering wheel to our ML forecasted output. Another way that we can go in is we can say, okay, we think that minimum staff is going to be, we have to have one person staffed at all time, or maybe we have to have 5 people staffed at all time for different positions that we have, whether that's receiving, whether that's stocking, whether that's cashiers. We could have different positions or different staffing requirements, again, making impacts or changes to what our expected foot traffic is going to be. Now, as we make those changes or as we make those tweaks, again, we're going to see the highlighted values letting us know that there's a deviation from our underlying or from our original